Hello, my name is Lauren Reed, and I have partnered up with Daniel today to present our group project on Buddhism and the afterlife. Today we will be discussing samsara, how the Buddha achieved enlightenment, karma, the six realms of being, and how to reach enlightenment according to the Buddhist religion. Now, when it comes to the afterlife, I believe many people have different views on it. It can be intimidating to some, but it's also what brings peace to others. Because I personally kind of intimidated by it. Growing up, I'd always heard about the afterlife and what different religions believe. And I personally don't know what's going to happen to me after I die, but it's what brings comfort to others because, people spend their whole lives practicing it, and it's not something to necessarily fear. Now, the Buddhist faith believes that after death, the mind continues and dissolves into its own fundamental nature. What happens to those after death depends largely on the karma that they've articulated throughout their life. According to Buddhists, karma is a natural law through which we create different realities. The idea is that our actions have large effects on our current lives, future lives too. So it's karma that leads to this continuous cycle of rebirth, which is also known as samsara. All of our actions have huge effects on our karma. So anything we do leads to something throughout this life. In the Buddhist faith, there is not one being that's considered a god. However, the founder of Buddhism is Siddhartha Gautama, and he spent the majority of his life attaining enlightenment and spreading the teachings of the Buddhist faith. Now, many people see Buddha's life as split into two distinct parts. There's before he reached enlightenment and after. People study both parts to figure out how he reached enlightenment and what caused him to reach enlightenment, and eventually how he reached it and how he spread the word of Buddhism. And the word Buddha specifically refers to Siddhartha after he reached enlightenment. An overview of what I'll go into more detail later is that Siddhartha sat underneath a Bodhi tree and became consumed in his meditation. He achieved enlightenment and became the Buddha. Now, it's the short version of what I'll go into much detail later on. And this is not as easy as it sounds. Siddhartha faced many different challenges along the way. And how he first got out to the tree and realized his path was he was sheltered in a palace all of his life. And one day he decided that he wanted to see the outside world and he wanted to venture out and figure out everything that was going on out there. So he finally did, and he saw a sick man, a dying man, a dead man, and a holy man. And all four of these had a large impact on Siddhartha. He realized all of the realities that normal humans face, and this is ultimately what made him decide to leave his palace and endure the life that much more humans were facing. So he finally saw this reality and decided that this is what he wanted to pursue instead of just being sheltered. And that's very honorable, considering that he could have just been kind of immune to all of the suffering that everyone faces every day. So he actually spent 6 years studying meditation and following many religious teachers as a guide before he finally realized what was meant for him to do. So the overall Buddhist belief is to overcome suffering and escape the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, which is samsara, and to reach enlightenment. Once the followers achieve this new state of being, they are said to have reached nirvana. And when you achieve nirvana, you stop acquiring bad karma and become fully awake to reality. Now, nirvana is considered a state of bliss and liberation, so it's not like you're awake to all the suffering. I would say it's more of a state of inner peace and bliss. So when beings have escaped this endless cycle of samsara, they are said to have reached enlightenment. This is personally my favorite part of Buddhism because I don't consider myself religious, but I constantly trying to figure out why I was put on this earth. And I'm always trying to figure out the meaning of life and maybe what an end destination is. So I really admire the Buddhist religion for this practice alone. And studying this topic has pushed me to realize that there is an answer to what life is all about. And there are certain practices that I will be implementing in my life just based on this presentation alone. All life is a constant cycle of birth and rebirth called samsara. The word samsara is literally translated to continuous movement. Now, this cycle is what Buddhists spend most of their lives trying to escape from. And beings are constantly repeating the cycle of birth and death, where beings cycle through the 6 realms of existence, which Daniel will be going into more detail later on in this video. Samsara exists because people fixate on themselves and their experiences. And this causes a state of suffering and dissatisfaction. And now this can be overcome by following the Buddhist path and improving your karma. And a more literal definition of samsara is literally life on earth filled with sorrow and pain. So if you practice good things and good karma, good things will come back to you, and you can eventually escape the cycle of sorrow and pain and escape samsara. Now, when someone dies, they are reincarnated into another form until the being has ultimately escaped samsara. So you will be reborn and reborn continuously until you've reached enlightenment. Now, through good actions, Buddhists hope to gain enlightenment to ensure this better future for themselves. And these good actions are set out in the Eightfold Path, which Daniel will be discussing more detail later on in the video. And good actions result in a better rebirth, while bad actions will always have the opposite effect. And being born as a human is seen by Buddhists as a rare opportunity to work towards escaping the cycle of samsara. And once you have escaped, you are in this new state of being called nirvana. And when nirvana is achieved and the enlightened individual passes away, they will no longer be reborn again. And throughout the Buddhist teachings, one that he taught his disciples was never to fear death. In other words, if they live well, their life will always be good. So what I talked about in the introduction, it's not something necessarily to fear, because if you live this great life, you'll be reborn something good. And Buddhists do believe in the life after death, because obviously humans are born and born again until they can reach nirvana. From each life, the only things that continue on to the next life are some feelings, impressions, and specific moments from each life, as well as the karma that is created throughout the cycle. So if you have good karma, it's continuing to the next life, and then if you have the bad karma, it's ultimately not going to be good. So you are similar, but not exactly the same as your previous self. Each new life can refine your personality to get you closer to breaking the cycle of samsara, and your karma will largely affect the conditions of your rebirth. As I said earlier, do good, good will come, do bad, and bad will come. And each new life you have is a new chance to break the cycle of samsara and attain the ultimate goal of reaching nirvana. And the concept of Buddhism teaches that human beings have ultimate control over themselves. Now, when people think of the laws of Buddhism in daily living, you always want to practice loving and kindness, and you will eventually reach self-acceptance. And this is what helps to begin the journey of accepting others and to eventually reach enlightenment. Only once all of this has happened, the cycle of samsara can be broken. Now for some history of Buddha. Buddha was a spiritual teacher in Nepal during the 6th century BC. He lived and taught in this region around the border of modern-day Nepal and India. Now, Buddha had a huge dedication to his journey. When Siddhartha sat alone under the Bodhi tree, he vowed not to leave the tree until the truth he sought came to him. And when his answers to his questions didn't appear, he continued to sit there, and even he continued to meditate and even starved, and he refused water, and he was ultimately just searching for the truth. And then one day a young girl offered him a bowl of rice. He accepted it, and he suddenly realized that all of these harsh conditions that he was putting himself under was not what it meant to achieve this inner liberation, and that living under these constraints was not in any way helping him achieve this spiritual release he had been longing for. So Siddhartha decided to have the rice, and he ended up drinking some water as well and went to take a bath in the river. And Buddha had 5 disciples that were following him at this time, and once they saw Buddha do this, they left him. They were like, you are not following what we had set out to, like our intentions, and we're not going to be following you anymore. So Buddha sat there alone under the tree and vowed to not get up until the truth actually came to him. And even during this time, a demon named Mara came to him and tried to convince him to leave and that he was the one reaching enlightenment. So Buddha touched his hand to the ground and told the earth to bear witness to his enlightenment, to see what he was doing, and the earth did, and Mara eventually was banished. So soon enough, Siddhartha saw the answer to the questions of suffering, and this was the moment he reached pure enlightenment. Siddhartha became the Buddha. And he eventually began his widespread teaching of Buddhism, and even after all he accomplished in his life, he never considered himself a god, but he considered himself a teacher. And when it comes to his widespread teachings of Buddhism, he was very hesitant to teach enlightenment because he knew that everything he went through and the truth that he found, he knew it could not be translated into words. So it was very hard for him to maybe find the motivation to run out and tell everyone, because he knew he couldn't convey it in a way that everyone would understand. But he eventually got up from the tree and set out to spread the teachings of Buddhism. And in his first sermon, he explained the 4 Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, which became the basis of Buddhism. And after he had reached enlightenment, he did go out and spread the teachings, and he told everyone kind of to follow the middle path. And this is a place that's considered between rich and impoverished lifestyles. He traveled throughout northeastern India for several decades, spreading his philosophy to anyone who would want to listen. And he was never discriminated, never told anyone, no, you can't, regardless of their gender or their class. So the Buddha did end up dying after 45 years of his travelings and teaching. And upon his death, the Buddha passed into a state of nirvana, the ultimate release from suffering. And the self no longer exists and salvation is achieved. And something that really stood out to me was that Buddha's last words to his followers was, strive on with awareness. And his followers made sure to spread the teachings of Buddhism after Buddha's death. And small communities and monks began to pop around the areas that Buddha traveled. And these followers were devoted to Buddha's teachings and wore yellow robes and meditated along the way. And what changed Buddha's following from a very small group of followers to a mass following around the world was the rise of Emperor Ashoka. And Emperor Ashoka was troubled by the amount of people that had died in the war, basically because of him. And he had felt all of this guilt inside him that he converted to Buddhism. And Ashoka prompted the Buddhist expansion by sending monks to surrounding areas to share the teachings of Buddhism. And this was when a wave of conversions really began for the Buddhist religion. And the religion started to spread all throughout areas of India and eventually internationally. And these teachings were spread to different areas of Nepal, Tibet, Central Asia, China, and Japan. And today there are 500 million people who follow the Buddhist religion, and it is the fourth largest religion in the world. Okay, and that is all for my part, and I will now let Daniel continue talking about karma, the six realms of being, and how to reach enlightenment. Thanks.
All right. Hi, my name is Daniel Nguyen, and I will be continuing the second half of this presentation on the afterlife. First, I would like to give a brief background, understanding, and my own personal perspective on Buddhism. So, my entire family, along with myself, are Buddhist and have practiced Buddhist traditions our entire lives. So hopefully taking this class would expand my knowledge of the faith that I grew up practicing. First thing first, Buddhist beliefs and ideals are built among the foundation and construct of karma. And what is karma? And where did it originate from? Well, the word karma comes from the Sanskrit language, which is, I believe, currently is the oldest language in the world. And the word karma means one's action or deed through one's body, speech, or mind. However, in Buddhism, for these actions to have any type of moral value, then there has to be some sort of intention. Intention is key. For example, say I were to step on a bug and kill it by accident. Or if I were driving along a mountain range, a deer jumps out and I kill it by accident. With zero intention in both cases, then my action has no moralistic value. There has to be intent. Another example of instantaneous karma, common for us college students, that is memorable for me, that we've discussed in our live Zoom meeting, is that when one does not study for an exam, they will fail the exam. One's intention or purpose could be considered one of two things: virtuous or non virtuous. A virtuous intention means that factors such as desire, hatred, or any type of suffering is not involved. Whereas ignorance, greed, or selfishness would be considered non virtuous. Karma is not based on some magical being in this universe or some made up theory or belief. Karma is based on life experiences. I mean, life experiences like the moment to moment interactions with our own reality. It's how one form of being interacts with their surroundings. For example, day to day activities and communication with our family, friends, teachers, students, our coworkers. This all will affect our own karma. Karma is also referred to as the process that determines our future consequences based on our present actions. You may ask the simple question, why? Why is karma a belief in the Buddhist faith? And that is where the cycle of samsara comes into play. The endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Attaining enlightenment or reaching nirvana at most is not an easy task to complete. One must live a life freeing themselves from any desires or suffering. So Buddhists have lowered the bar from common Buddhists, the normal lay people, have lowered the bar from enlightenment to simply improving the status of their next life, meaning good deeds will bring good consequences. The result of these intended actions may bring either suffering or happiness to oneself, either now or later. And when I say now or later, this could mean later today, tomorrow, years from now, or even our future lives. I really like the phrase by an American artist, by the author by the name of Wayne Dyer, who states, "How people treat you is their karma, and how you react is yours." One must gain merit in this lifetime in order to avoid demerit in the next. There is always a balance. Most people believe that karma determines the individual's nature after rebirth as well. Rebirth in a good realm is the result of good karma, whereas bad karma will lead to the consequence of being reborn into a negative realm. This means that we can influence the path of our future based on the actions of today. So, speaking of realms, let's talk about the 6 realms of existence. The 6 realms of being. Within the cycle of samsara, there are 6 realms of existence or 6 realms of being, which means which realm one rebirths into depends on their existing karma. These realms can be split into 2 separate categories: the good realm and the bad realm. The good realm consists of the first 3: the heavenly or deity realm, the demigod, and the human realm. The bad realm consists of the remaining 3: the animal, ghost, and hellish realm. Each of these 6 realms consists of a resident Buddha in each one, which has oversight over that specific realm. Okay, so let's talk about the highest realm of being. For one to be reborn into the heavenly realm, they must have an insanely enormous, massive amount of religious merit. There cannot just simply be good karma, but multiple lifetimes worth of good deeds. And this will allow for the rebirth in the deity realm. In this realm, happiness is endless. Everything seems perfect. However, most believe that this realm is a trap, since it is nearly impossible to carry out good deeds. Enlightenment, so this means that enlightenment is impossible. There's absolutely zero need for any desires, so there's no need for change. It is believed that one day in this realm is equivalent to 400 human years. So you can spend an extremely long time in this realm. However, this time is not permanent. Every being will sooner or later rebirth into a lower realm once that karma that they have invested into being in this realm has been used up. In simple terms, you can visualize this process as a hotel. The number of nights you wish to stay depends on how much you plan to spend, but on a much, much larger scale. The second realm is the human realm. This is the only realm out of the 6 that can achieve nirvana. Enlightenment is impossible in heaven because there is no need to strive in heaven. And enlightenment is impossible in hell because there is only suffering in hell. One's being will loop back around sooner or later and will end up back in the human realm. So it is extremely encouraged by the Buddha, his philosophy and teachings, to not waste our precious time in this realm, to do our absolute best to seek enlightenment or to come close. In this realm, one's socioeconomic status, financial well being, psychological and physiological conditions could either be rewarded or punished through their past actions. This is known as karma. Also, in this realm, we are gifted with enough happiness, anxiety, and sadness in order to maintain our perseverance, in order to continue striving towards enlightenment. The third realm, is the Asura realm or demigod realm. Here, demigods are powerful as they are granted with supernatural powers, but they are extremely immoral and have built up anger towards the deities up above in the heavenly realm. I want to say up above because this is a cycle. They are driven by greed and desires, and sometimes believed in, especially Asia, to cause trouble towards us humans. The fourth realm is the animal realm. This starts the three remaining realms, which are the bad realms. Here, they are known as the consequence of past sins. They are punished in the form of animals through their negative deeds in the past. For thousands of births, these animals cannot attain good karma, but only instead work off the bad karma that they have acquired. Animals, like shown on television, or even animals you know of, prey on one another. They have sensual desires and are often confused. All they do is eat and drink, sleep, and live. So it doesn't seem likely that animals can achieve enlightenment. However, it is possible for animals to be reborn into the human realm. Like the rest, it's all a cycle, and will all come back around to the human realm. Then these animals can focus on their path towards enlightenment as humans. The process will take a while though, or they have committed past sins and will have to cleanse off that bad karma that they have acquired. But the process can be sped up through the help of us humans. It is possible as pet owners to help their own pets with their path in this realm to be reborn into the human realm. The fifth realm consists of the hungry ghost realm, or known as Preta. Similar to the hell realm, hungry ghosts are suffering to cleanse the past sins and karma. Also similar to the animal realm as well. And they are depicted to have tiny necks with large stomachs. They are punished with endless hunger and thirst. Sorry. However, compassionate Buddhists all around the world may or have lent a helping hand by leaving food as offerings outside for any roaming ghosts that may be around. They cannot be seen by the living, so the constant feeling of frustration, isolation, and hopelessness will stick with them and always be there until their time in the hungry ghost realm is up. Finally, the last and final realm is the hell realm. This is the worst place one could possibly be reborn into. For one to be reborn here, they must have repeated the worst of deeds. Deeds such as theft, lying, adultery, and murder. Here, suffering is on the highest level of fear, pain, and torture. There are a total of 8 hot and 8 cold hells. Although, at first, it may seem endless in this never-ending realm? It is not. Like the five other realms, once you cleanse yourself of your sins and karma, you are allowed to be reborn into a higher realm. However, an individual that is reborn here will spend quite a while in this realm before looping back around. Many Buddhist teachers across the world implement the fear of hell in order to push their followers in a more positive direction, the direction towards enlightenment. So that concludes the six realms of existence within the cycle of samsara. And what's left? And the answer to that is liberation from this cycle, to free yourself from this cycle, the cycle of endless suffering. That is the overall mission of every being, finding enlightenment and achieving nirvana. The Noble Eightfold Paths is one of the key principles that is taught in Buddhism in order to reach nirvana. It consists of 8 practices: right view, right resolve, right speech, right conduct, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right meditation. And this is the only way that you are truly free from the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. This concludes our presentation on the concept of the afterlife within the Buddhist faith. This presentation only summarizes a small amount of how the afterlife is truly believed, but hopefully it was informative and helpful as it was for me. Here are our resources that we've used, and thank you very much.